Welcome to the Dating Kinky Podcast, a cast about love, sex, romance, and kink. Yesterday in Two Sides to Dominance, the topic was protocol, and there was some really amazing discussion. At the end of the event, English Leather Master said that next month's topic is about boundaries, which, as you may or may not know, is the topic of the current book I'm working on. Well, one of the books. I tend to have a lot of projects going at once, so my attention deficit has plenty of playgrounds to keep it occupied. Just before the show, they're in the UK, so it's at 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Eastern, I'd posted a simple poll to my FetLife feed, and it blew up in an expected and yet still horrifying way. Have you ever been afraid to say no? Yesterday, for the second time, I saw a post on social media with screenshots from Twitter, and this time it really connected with me. Some women have a higher body count because they're afraid to say no when they're put in a situation that involves sexual pressure from a man, but I don't think the slut shamers are ready for that conversation yet. I've said no before, and they got angry. I've said no before, and they hit me. I've said no before and they spread rumors about me. I've said no before and they raped me. Stop telling women to just say no and start teaching men to respect women. What makes me really sad is that many women will read this and they will relate to this, and many men will read it and think it's nonsense. I'm not brave enough to speak on my experience, but for those who are, I believe you. Before I continue, I think it's important to note that she specifically said many men will think this is nonsense, not all. And that got me thinking. So I decided to do a totally off-the-cuff poll on my FetLife feed. Whoever saw it could respond if they wanted to. I asked, a question inspired by social media. Have you ever had sex because you were afraid to say no? Simple yes or no suffices. Fear of any kind counts. Please include your gender if you're comfortable. I wanted to include gender for two reasons. One, because I know this does not only happen to women or feminine identified people. Two, because I wanted people who might not believe this happens to know that it does, and who it happens to. As of right now, 16 hours after posting, I've gotten 408 replies. One was my own, yes, woman. Of the 322 yeses, 237 were women or identified as women at the time. 50 were men, 13 were non-binary, 10 did not identify their gender, and I did not assume. 4 were genderqueer, 4 were transmasc, 2 were trans women, 1 was female to male, 1 was agender. Some shared details. Some wrote about their experiences. In less than 24 hours, a small feed item could pull in that many people that related to this and were willing to put themselves out there as having experienced having sex due to fear. Someone said, I never realized so many people would feel pressured into having sex. Wow. I always thought no meant no, and never pressure anyone into doing something they weren't comfortable with. I replied that pressure doesn't always feel like pressure to the people pressuring. If someone is known for getting angry easily, for example, their partner might be afraid to say no. If someone has had a previous partner who did get upset when told no, they might be afraid to say no to the next person who would never want that. Of course, there will always be people out there who do put their own needs before others. Some people are shitty. For the rest of us, though, it's worth thinking through how we pressure, manipulate, and scare others with the idea that we might withdraw love or friendship or resources or whatever if we don't get the sex we desire. And how we might remove that pressure and assure others that we don't have to have sex with them right now, or ever, depending on circumstances, and we will still care for them, want them in our lives, and will not, above all things, harm them for saying no. I don't have all the answers, of course. This just really made me think and resolve to check my own thoughts and actions moving forward. I do tend to be sexually aggressive. What are your thoughts? Has this happened to you? Are you willing to share yes or no and your gender? Do you think you may have pressured someone else ever, either intentionally or not? If you were feeling pressure in a sexual situation, what words or actions would remove that pressure and make you feel safe to make a decision based on your own desires and needs? Also, how do we help ourselves learn how to say no more often and more effectively in situations where physical threat is not a consideration? Thank you for joining me today. If you loved this episode, please share it with others who would enjoy it. And please do join me at datingkinky.com and our new apps available in the Google Play and Apple App Stores. It's built by Kinksters for Kinksters, poly, queer, trans folk, and anyone not quite vanilla. And it's free. Find me on FetLife as Nookie Notes, and on Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, and Medium as Dating Kinky. We are on Instagram as Dating Kinky Official, all one word. Have a kinky day, and I'll catch you next episode.